What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to test out the best build for the priest job in the Ragnarok. At last, I've reached the final job currently available in this game. If you don't know what I mean, I've been testing out all the jobs available in the current patch. This is to check out which builds are better in the early and mid stages of the game. If you haven't seen those videos yet, you can check it out in the Ragnarok playlist in this channel. Now, in my opinion, the priest is one of the best and most important job in any Ragnarok IP. This is because the priest is the main support class in this game, which provides the party healing, buffs, and support skills. This is also the reason why this job is one of the most important roles that you need to have in your party, because not only does a priest give you buffs that can increase your basic stats, improve your casting time and damage, or give you damage reduction from enemies, it can also resurrect a fallen member in the group. That is one of the most crucial roles in playing in an MMORPG. Being able to resurrect your teammates in the middle of a boss fight, guild war, or even a dungeon raid is one of the most highly touted skill in this game. But before we talk about the priest, let's first talk about where this class starts off. Before becoming a priest, you will first become an acolyte in your first job. To be honest, I was a bit skeptical when I tried this class, because I felt that I was going to struggle in the early and mid stages of the game. Simply because this is a support job, and usually, it doesn't really have a high DPS when it comes to farming and leveling up. So when I became an acolyte, I immediately checked out the skills available for grinding in PvE. The best skill that you can use, especially as an acolyte who is trying to reach the second job, is the Holy Light, because it is a spammable skill. Obviously, if you have been watching my other videos regarding the other jobs, you already know that the current meta in this game is the use of spammable low cooldown skills in order to grind efficiently. Fortunately for us, the Holy Light skill is also spammable just like the Knight's Bash, Assassin's Sonic Blow, Wizard's Soul Strike, Blacksmith's Mammonite, and the Hunter's Double Strafe. So that is where we are going to revolve around our build in order to reach the second job. Here is a quick recap about the skills that you need to have as an acolyte. Of course, you need to have the Holy Light skill as your main source of damage, the Demon Bane, which increases your int as well as the damage of the Holy Light, Blessing, which gives you and your party additional dex, int, and strength, Quicken, or in the classic term, increase agility skill. For this one, you can just use 1 point for this skill, because the only stat that you need from this is the additional 10% movement speed. The reason why you don't need to add more points to this skill is because the movement speed buff will stay at 10% regardless if the skill is level 1 or level 10. For the rest of the points, you can add it to whatever skill that you want. To be honest, the skills that I've mentioned are sufficient enough to get me through the second job. Although, when you reach higher levels in the game, you probably need to have the Ruach, max level increase agility, divine protection, heal, slow, and angel's barrier. For the stats of this job, you just need to focus on the int and luck stat. Again, if you've been watching my other videos, I've mentioned it a couple of times, that this game has a very linear way of building characters. You typically focus on two stats, which are the stat that adds more damage to your skill, and the luck stat, which increases your critical hit rate. The concept is also applicable for this job, as the Holy Light skill can also trigger critical damage. Now, to my surprise, and I mean it, I was really surprised about the damage output of this job. Out of all the jobs that I've tried in this game, this is probably one of the most efficient class when it comes to farming and leveling up. This is because the damage of the Holy Light is so freaking high that it can literally one-hit monsters like it was nothing. When I was grinding to reach the second job, I was so surprised and I was laughing so hard when I saw how good this job can easily outgrind other jobs in the area. Even if I have hunters or wizards around me, I was able to clear out majority of the monsters in that area. Which is freaking insane, considering that this is supposed to be a support class. I mean, if you ask me, if a support job can out DPS a damage dealer in this game, then this class will be very OP as you can deal a decent amount of damage and you can magnify it more with the support skills that you have in your arsenal. As you can see in the video, the Acolyte is like hitting an invisible baseball to the monster and they are just going down one by one. I feel like this is on par with the likes of a hunter who is using a double strafe build, as well as a wizard who is using the soul strike build. So for the players who are wondering, are we going to struggle in PvE as a priest? The answer to that is no. You can easily farm and level up in PvE. After I reached the second job, I was able to unlock the other buff skills as well as the other damage dealing skills for this class. Majority of the skills for the second job are buff and debuff skills for PvE and PvP, while the main damage dealing skills are the Turn Undead and Magnus skills. As you've seen in this video's thumbnail, I would like to compare whether the Magnus skill can even come close or be on par with the DPS of the Holy Light skill. If you don't know what the Magnus skill is, this is an AoE skill which can deal a huge amount of damage to enemies inside an area. This is the usual DPS skill used by Priest in other Ragnarok IPs. That is why I want to test it out if this is also the case in the Ragnarok game. One of the things that I've noticed when it comes to the Magnus skill is that it has a high cooldown as well as a high casting time, which makes me think that this is not going to be good in AFK grinding, because the monsters that you are targeting in the wild will probably be dead after you cast the Magnus skill. As you can see in the video, I am already using all my buffs as well as the Sufra skill to increase my casting speed. However, it still takes a few seconds to cast the Magnus skill. I think in order to make this your main damage skill, you need to have better cards to reduce the casting time. There is no doubt that this skill is good for farming, as long as you meet the following conditions. One is to have good equipment and cards to lower down the casting time, and then 2, to find an area where monsters typically spawn right next to each other. In my personal opinion, I would rather stick with the Holy Light skill when AFK grinding in the wild. I think the Magnus skill is much more effective in the Endless Tower or Hunting Park instances. Overall, I think the Priest is one of the best jobs to play if you are an F2P, because this job is usually in demand, especially when doing MVP and mini hunts, completing dungeons, and even in PvP. The support skills are so valuable in this game, which makes you a priority even though you don't have a high progress in your character. This job is also very easy to play, as long as you understand how your skills work and when to activate these skills at the right time. Surprisingly, the Priest is extremely good in PvE, as I didn't have any problems in AFK grinding or in completing solo dungeons, Endless Tower, and the Hunting Park. It can deal a decent amount of damage, which allows you to farm and level up on your own. If you ask me, which job would I play as my main? From all the jobs that I've tested out, I would say that the Priest and the Hunter are on the top of my list, simply because I feel like these two are very F2P friendly and are easy to play in the game. And that's it for this video. What are your thoughts about the Priest job? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more the Ragnarok content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. GG.
You're a superhero.